my calculations are correct, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
They're here.
Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
It's showtime.
Right, welcome everybody to another episode of the VHS Strikes Back. I am one of your hosts, Chris, and my co-host and very good friend is Dave.
Hey there, Chris, and hello to our listeners out there. Welcome to the VHS Strikes Back, the show where we dust off the old video player and go on a nostalgic journey to look at the good and the bad movies of yesteryear. Now, Chris, what are we going to review this week?
Well, Dave, it's a Patreon pick, and it's the wonderful Lucky Lulu Green who supports us across the VHS Strikes Back and Chris and Dave's reality TV cast and has been a loyal listener for many years. She has picked, Dave, a coming-of-age movie from the 80s, which I will say now I have never seen, and it's always been on my radar, but we're going back to 1985. It's a John Hughes movie, directed, written, and produced by Mr. John Hughes. It stars Emilio Estevez, Paul Gleason, Anthony Michael Hall, Judd Nelson, Molly Ringwald, and Ali Sheedy. So, Dave, we are going to be reviewing The Breakfast Club. So, have you seen this one before, Dave?
So I have seen it before, but what I would say is I watched it out of context. I watched it out of the 80s, and I think you and I were probably just a bit too young to really watch this one. I don't mean it's okay to watch Terminator and stuff like that. It's okay to watch people getting shot and, all kinds of violence and whatever. We're probably too young for that as well. But this one, this sort of coming of age drama / comedy is billed as sometimes. I think we just missed the boat on it. And I watched it, and in my head, I've watched this fairly recently. And when I was tracing it back, it was probably about 8 years ago. It was the first time I watched it, because it's one of those movies where it's referenced so much. When anyone's talking about John Hughes and kind of the Brat Pack and what have you, they're talking about Breakfast Club in amongst all of these other movies as well. And so much so that you end up convinced that you've watched it, even though you haven't. And so I think it was in that category for me where I thought, have I watched this one? I can't really remember. And anyway, I saw it popping up on Netflix a few years ago, and I thought I had a bit of time, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to see if I've watched it. And as it started to unfold, I was like, yeah, I've definitely not seen this before. But I've seen little clips of it and stuff, like the dancing and everything, the kind of key highlights from the trailer. But yeah, so after I watched that, and I will say I did really enjoy it. I think I've watched it one other time since, and then this would be the third time of watching now. But I mean, I know you said you hadn't watched it, but you got any frame of reference for this one, Chris?
Yeah, I think having been such a fan when I was younger, and I know I absolutely levered it when we reviewed it, but Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and being John Hughes, and around this time, it just never appealed to me. Like you say, it came out, I was 7, but as I got older, you do come across these movies, and I think it just passed me by, because like you said about, it's a good point of reference, the Terminator stuff. Like, I was into, by the late 80s, as you know, I was like, fully smoking the band at Lethal Weapon, Beverly Hills Cop. All right, Ferris Bueller is the anomaly as such, but it just never was one I wanted to rent out. And I think, I know it sounds silly, but as I got into the 90s and it became a movie that had been out, say, 10 years in 95, I was like 16, 17. I'm like, no, this just isn't for me. And I knew all about it. I knew people said it was a great movie. And it was like, especially when you were at school, it was one of the movies that made sense. Even when I was a teenager, friends of mine would say in like the early 90s, "Or watch Breakfast Club." And I just never got round to it. And I think you're right. I think maybe the ego or something kicked in. I'm like, I'm not watching this stuff. I'm not watching this movie. I would never sit down. But I know these bits of it, the dancing, and obviously Emilio Estevez. And we've done a few Emilio Estevez movies in 2025 days. So we've sort of caught up. We haven't done a lot of them. And then we've done, this is about the third or fourth one we've done now in the space of about 6 months. Twice, 2 of them were my picks, to be fair. Maybe the third one. So I get that. But no, just nothing about it. But I know it stands up in so many people's movies. If you say coming of age for our age bracket, mid 40s to probably mid 50s now, I suppose, it is a movie that they would say, yeah, what about Breakfast Club? I used to love that as a kid. But then I'm sort of thinking, he's 41 years old. is he going to stand up? Is there going to be any relevance to it? So, no, just nothing on there. It's just an interesting movie. And I think I do like John Hughes movies as well, Dave. Very underrated as well. Did some great movies, obviously, we've covered. Obviously, love it, Planes, Trains and Automobiles as well. They're more comedy, but great writer, really digs on the sort of heartstrings as well. A thing, Planes, Trains and Automobiles. It's just so funny and so sad. That's what you want in a movie. I can be literally tearing up at 1 minute. Del Griffiths is just one of the greatest characters ever. And, I haven't said anybody this, but I did send you this, Dave. And, as I got older, I've become a little bit more cynical, a little bit more emotional. But there was a point where a few months ago, I did send it to you, Dave, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I told you this. There is a Del Griffiths and Neil Page Funko Pops, and I was going to send you
amazing
Neil Page, and I was going to have Dale Griffiths, and I haven't bought it, and it's pointless saying it now, but and then I'm thinking, Dave might be thinking, that's just a little bit strange, because I thought, well, you're the Neil Page, you're the sensible one, and everything, and I'm the fucking Del Griffiths, the dickhead, like, balloon head. But I sort of like, I don't know why, I just thought I was being a little bit, probably one night when I was on the JD or something, Dave, and I'm thinking, I've been a little bit emotional. I'm going to send this to Dave as a nice present. But then you were probably thinking, why have I got a box with just one person in it? And I'm like, but I've got the other one, Dave. Like, I don't know.
That is actually a great idea, and I think we need to follow through on that one, because in this previous Thanksgiving that's just gone on, so last year, so end of 2024, I did watch it. So probably not every year that I watched Planes, Trains and Automobiles around that time, but as soon as I work for a lot of global companies, so quite often there's people in America that I'm reliant on, so I need to know when Thanksgiving is, so the weeks before and leading up to, I'm very aware of when it is, and it makes me think, must watch Planes, Trains and Automobiles. And I was watching it again this time, and the parallels between you and I and those two are undeniable. And even right now, I'm thinking about it. And what I'm thinking about is when they're both on the airplane, and Dale's taking his socks off. It's like, oh, my dogs are barking. And then Neil is the grumpy arsehole next to him, just getting more and more annoyed, but trying not to engage in any conversation. It's just looking at it. I was like, that is me and you. It's undeniable. So I think that's a great idea.
Dave. Can we just clarify? We've never woke up with my hand somewhere it shouldn't be or anything like that. But hell of a game.
Pillows.
Yeah. Hell of a game. But no, you're right, because I'm the guy when you get on a plane who you sit next to me, and if like when we go to Vegas, sometimes it's a 3, 4, and a 3, or it's a 2, 4, and a 2, which it was in September. And I'm the guy who gets on, says hello. And if you engage with me, we're talking for 8 hours, even if you're asleep, and Sam pisses herself laughing. But I'm also the guy, Dave, who pulls out every fucking gadget possible, and we'll sit there for 6 hours of a 10-hour flight using. I have the Steam Deck. I've now got the Xbox LAX, but I will sit there gaming, and all you can hear is the buttons clicking and going faster, the triggers going, and Sam's like, they must be going fucking nuts next to you. I'm that one who's fidgeting. I'm up and down. I'm walking around the plane. I'm at the back of the plane doing
selling
yoga.
Curtain rings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm talking to the. Last time I was on the plane, I'm doing fucking yoga with the fucking stewardesses, Dave. At the bottom.
Sounds like a different story.
Yeah, it wasn't like that. I know there's a secret bunk bed somewhere, but it certainly wasn't like that. But this woman's like, I'm there stretching a bit, because it size me gets on my nerves sometimes. I know I love yoga. And I'm sure this was, and I'm like, yeah, you need to do this. And then the other one comes over, and they're like, oh, yeah, cheers for that. But I'm the guy who just can't sit still, the ADHD, just a fucking so scatterbrained at times with what's going on. And then I'm like a little puppy when someone doesn't want to engage me or anything, like
me. You just want to give a polite, you all right? Do you want to, oh, sorry, I just tapped me on the elbow there. It's okay. I'm meanwhile just flicking through the movies. I haven't gone on a long haul for a while now, but flicking through the movies, say to a trip to Vegas, I can get a good solid 3 movies in there. and a little bit of a nap at some point. So yeah, that's me, and just getting more and more annoyed at this fucking balloon head sat next to me.
That's me. That's me. And I'm the guy who goes to Vegas on a 10-hour flight, Dave, and maybe has 20 minutes sleep and then still gets off the plane and he's as fucking giddy as anything. You know what I mean? I am that dick. So yes, I am definitely Dale Griffith, Dave, 100%. You know, little puppy. And then I'm lost then when someone doesn't want to be my friend. I'm like, yeah.
Well, anyway, Chris, should we get into our trailer?
Let's go.
On a quiet Saturday morning, 5 teenagers are forced into detention and somehow emerge as a voice of a generation.
Yes, it's The Breakfast Club, the only film where sitting in a library for 9 hours counts as a transformative life event.
Meet the brain, the athlete, the basket case, the princess, and the criminal.
Or, as modern audiences know them, people who desperately need therapy but instead get a mixtape. That's very true.
Locked together under the watchful eye of a teacher who hates his job, his life, and probably children.
Seriously, Vernon looks... My voice has changed every line. Seriously, Vernon looks like he started teaching as a punishment and never escaped. I would also say like he'd stepped off Saturday Night Fever Day with that suit he's got on, but carry on.
Also watched Trading Places over the Christmas period as well.
What a film. What
Anyway.
a film. Love that film.
They'll argue, they'll bond, they'll dance awkwardly to synth music in the library.
And they'll overshare personal trauma like it's a competitive sport.
In just one day, they'll tear down social barriers, challenge stereotypes, and solve all of adolescence.
All before 4 p.m. Counsellors everywhere, we're fucking furious.
There's rebellion, there's angst, there's a dramatic essay written under extreme emotional pressure.
Nothing screams growth like writing your feelings for the man who locked you in the building.
The Breakfast Club, a film that boldly asks,
What if detention fixed everything?
don't you forget about...
I was going to start singing. Me! No, we're not doing it.
Fair enough.
The Breakfast Club, because sometimes all it takes to understand each other
Is weed.
On Saturday, March 24th, 1984, 5 students at Shermer High School in Shermer, Illinois, report for an all-day detention. Socially awkward nerd Brian Johnson, jock Andrew Clark, shy loner Alison Reynolds, popular girl Claire Standish, and rebellious delinquent John Bender. They gather in the school library and meet their vice principal, Richard Vernon, who warns them not to talk or move from their seats and assigns each of them a task of writing a 1,000-word essay describing who they are. Now, Chris, what do you reckon to the opening of this movie?
Well, Dave, absolute pop icon, a pop culture movie.
Yeah.
Something that, you know, I've finally ticked off the list. And I tell you what, for an hour and a bit, it's fucking boring. It's absolute shit. This movie is fucking rubbish at the start. Honestly, I'm not having Emilio Estevez as the jock. I know originally he was supposed to be Bender, wasn't he? And then they changed it. And the guy who plays him, who John Hughes fucking hated because he was an arsehole on set, what's he called? Judd Nelson. He's absolutely bellend in real life. And John Hughes never worked with him again. But yeah, honestly, he's so fucking slow and boring, honestly. But what I would say, Dave, is I love the fact that a 4-hour detention has defined people's lives. Now,
8 hours.
Oh, was it 8? Sorry, 8 hours.
So they turned up at 7:30 in the morning. I'm like, fuck that.
Yeah, exactly.
To 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
All right, so it's a fucking long old slog. Sorry, right. So 8 hours. You're right, 8 hours. But one, why would the teacher give his Saturday up for that nonsense? Why is he dressed like John Travolta's fucking brother or something off Saturday Night Fever? And
that was the gag.
That was the yeah. Oh, was that the guy?
Barry Manilow, wasn't it? He said.
Oh, right, okay.
Barry Manilow's forgot your his wardrobe or something.
Wardrobe, yeah. It's slick, Rick. But I watch it and I'm like, oh god. And again, Milo Estevez, you can clearly see where the influence of who his dad is. Did you read the trivia, which I thought was brilliant? There's a trivia bit where I think the director, someone, or not, maybe John Hughes, someone slags off his dad, Martin Sheen, because in one of the films, Apocalypse Now, he had a heart attack, didn't he? 'Cause one of the scenes, he got so worked up, a proper heart attack. And they didn't know, like most people, that Emilio Estevez was his son. And it fucking kicked off, didn't it? And then apparently the guy actually spoke to Martin Sheen when he was doing that President show a few years ago, when he, whatever that was in America, the TV show. And he loved it. But Emilio Estevez was offended and he had to apologize because he didn't realize it was his dad. I mean, he looks exactly like him. But yeah, Emilio Estevez is playing Dave. I'm not having it. He was the fucking... The jock, and he's a fucking midget, isn't he? Come on.
Steady.
Fuck off. All right, sorry. He's vertically challenged. He's a couple of centimetres off a metre, but yeah, go on.
Let me just pause you there for a second, because I did wonder how this one would land for you, because it is a slower, more considered start, and a build-up to what happens. And ultimately, it's a movie about, a bunch of teenagers in detention for a Saturday. That's the movie. But let's just... Emilio Estevez, as you mentioned before, we've covered him a few times on different things like Maximum Overdrive, did Men at Work.
Yeah.
And I obviously, I had a memory, and I remember quite... liking Emilio Estevez, and like Young Guns, we did a couple of years ago, I think. And I have a perception that he is kind of this pretty boy actor, who's done well for himself. He hasn't taken on the Sheen name, so he's kind of done it on his own. He hasn't sort of relied on nepotism and whatever. But I'm like, hang about. Have I just completely missed that somehow he gets cast in these roles where he's supposed to be this hard ass, but he's clearly not?
Yes. Yeah.
Because I guess the script and the interactions are supposed to, lead us to believe he's this massive wrestling fucking beast, and part of his problem is the weight of expectation. He's forced constantly to win matches and whatever, and it's like, nah, I'm not buying it. I hadn't. We'd spoken about it, I'm sure, with Maximum Overdrive, because he's supposed to be this like ex-convict, and he's working as a chef, but actually he's this secret badass. And I don't know if it's just coincidence that we've done these sort of 3 movies together, because I guess he wasn't played up quite as much, but still like a blue-collar worker type job. He's bin man, wasn't he, in Men at Work? But yeah, that was one of the early things that came across to me, was just like, I can't buy him as this fucking wrestling state champion.
No, exactly. It's fucking nonsense. And Bender's a bigger guy, isn't he? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I'm not having for a second Emilio Estevez is taking out Judd Nelson there.
I'm not. And apparently he didn't want the part, did he? He wanted to be Bender. He was Bender, but then they switched it around. But Judd Nelson, he's an absolute dick in it. He's that like 80s, just bellend, and he loud, playing up to everything, just really like disrupting the whole thing. By the sounds of it, he's in detention every single week. So he's going to have a coming of age moment every single week. By the end of his what they call semester, he's going to be the fucking president. Well, let's say less about the president of America. But well, yeah, you know what I mean?
A proper criminal. But so
allegedly.
Talking about Judd Nelson, of course, yes. Or Bender, the character. But so yeah, you say about Emilio Estevez possibly playing the Bender character. You know who? This just one of these weird coincidences, because of course last week we did Better Off Dead, also released in 1985. But the other person who was really in for this role was John Cusack.
Ah, right.
But John Hughes didn't think he'd be like intimidating enough for the role. So that's why he was kind of parked to the side a bit. But yeah, he was lined up, or at least in the thinking to play this Bender role, this rebellious, criminal in waiting.
Yeah, and I do like the fact there's a little Easter egg, isn't there? Apparently the outfit he wore was what he auditioned in, and they said, keep that as your we're going to use that as your wardrobe sort of thing. But I've gone proper down a rabbit hole on all like the stats and everything and the info trivia and stuff, as you can tell. But no, I think what I find weird is it's the detention thing. They're all there for different reasons, aren't they? And Michael, what's it called? Michael Finger Hall, he was out of National Lampoons and that.
Yeah, we did him in Freddie Got Fingered as well.
Freddie Got Fingers. Yes, we did, yeah.
Freddie Got Fingers.
Yeah, whatever. Well, you said you did him, Dave, so I don't know what fucking movie we were covering. Maybe that's the late, what's it, the late
I'm sure it was last week when you were talking about Chris got fisted.
Oh, yeah. I'm still walking funny now, Dave. But no, it's funny because I get like what the movie's about, and like these kids, we all know that we've all got like as kids ourselves. You can look back at school and go, actually, this person was. I remember a lad who was heavily autistic, and I mean this, Dave. Like you people really just singled him out, and he probably shouldn't have been at our school. Very, very clever guy, but from a social point of view, he was just a target. And I wasn't. I'm not just saying this because I would, if it was me, I'd be fucking mortified that I did that to someone. But I always felt sorry for him, but I never had the bollocks to sort of stand up for him when I was younger. And then as you get older, you think, God, that kid, he had his own problems coming to school. So clever. But then he shouldn't have been in a school. And then you've got other people who come to school, and I can look back now. And this movie did get me thinking about that. There was a lad who used to wag it all the time. He'd be off for months on end, and then come in. And then when
you're
you
listening
realize
from one of the other countries or this outside,
yeah.
So wagging is to skip school.
Skip school, and then he was always having the wag lady. So she was like the skip school sort of coordinator, would go to the kids' houses to find out what's going on. And at the time, there wasn't actually a legal law, was there, to send your kids to school? Whereas there is now. Yeah, it's worse now. And taking your kids out of school, I spent many years holiday in Spain in term time, and then went on holiday for 2 weeks for Easter, Dave. You had like 4 weeks off. It was great as a kid. But anyway, I can look back, and it did get me thinking about some of the kids I dealt with and the stuff I was going through as a kid, like, and I'll be honest with you, Dave, as much as I hated the movie at the start, and I'm like, oh my God, by the end of it, there was a lot of similarities with Bender, especially the stuff with his dad. And not to go too thingy, put it all on me, but I could see a lot of my traits in Bender, if that makes sense. Being the outward going extrovert, being a bit of a dick, playing up a little bit. I was never really in trouble, but when I get going, and it's knowing that you come into school with all these things, and it's a case of wanting to stay there and be in your own environment, because being in your own environment was not a nice place to be. And you only realize that as you get older, I think, and get more wiser to it, that there was things you did to stay away from your house and stuff. So yeah, I think in the end, I don't know how, but I ended up being quite relatable to Bender, even though he is a dickhead, which probably means I'm a dickhead, Dave. But I don't know. I got more out of it. I'll be honest with you, and I'm not going to do a switcheroo. I thought the last 20 minutes, all of a sudden, just fucking hit home to me so much. It was really, I think the end of it's brilliant, but there was such a slow burn to get to that point, I must admit.
Yeah, and I don't know if I went on a massively dissimilar journey to yourself that first time I watched it, because I guess when we're watching it in, let's say, more recent times, you come in with that weighted expectation, don't you? It's this legendary movie. It's John Hughes, so it's probably a bit, Ferris Bueller, Home Alone, Planes, Trains and Automobiles, 16 Candles, all of these other things. And so I don't think you intentionally do it, or I don't intentionally do it, but I kind of sit down and I'm like, come on then, fucking wow me.
Yeah.
Everyone says you're great. Fucking show me how great you are. But it's so slow at the start. Yeah, I remember thinking, like, the fuck is all this about?
Yes.
Like, and then as it unfolds, it's like, what's going on? Nothing's really happening. And then I think it's more, like you say, it definitely all comes together in, let's say, the final act. And then it really hits home. And I think there's certainly things which are of its time in this, and we'll come back to that more, and it might feature in the song quite a bit. But I think there's things that are timeless in there as well, because for these kids, so how I see it is all of these kids are from different cliques. You know, they don't mix in the same circles at all. You know, Emilio Estevez will have his little jock crowd. Molly Ringwald, she's kind of in the prom queen. You know, she's from a very well-off background and privileged background, and you know, wouldn't interact with the others. Anthony Michael Hall, he's you know, part of the physics club. You know, he's obviously a bit of a brainy one, but you know, a little bit younger as well. And you know, you got Ali Sheedy as well, who's supposed to be this almost goth type recluse. And who am I forgetting? There's one of course, Judd Nelson. So Bender, he's from supposedly from the other side of the tracks. So he's from a very troubled background and stuff. So you got these 5 characters and they just wouldn't mix. So in high school, when everything seems so important, everything, it's your whole life, it's the things that you've known and the social circles that you run in, it's so important in that time, and they would just never speak to each other. And then you kind of have Bender's a fucking knob, if I'm honest, but he's almost the catalyst to get other people talking as well, and so you end up breaking down these barriers from these cliques and people figuring out, you know, because they look over the other side of the fence at the other clique and they might think, these people have got all their shit together and their life is so much better than mine, but actually I'm dealing with all this shit and no one really understands me and whatever. And that, for me, that realization from all of them that actually these people, we've got a lot more in common with them than we have differences. That is the most powerful thing about this movie. And I have to say, I fucking love this movie. And again, I still go through the same thing. So even though I've watched it 3 times now, I still find the first bit of it, you know, a bit painful. And I have to say, Paul Gleason, he plays a brilliant character. And again, the fact that I've only just over the holiday period, I watched fucking Trading Places again. It's just my own little coincidence, but you know, the fact that he plays just a great horrible character, whatever he is. You know, he's a vice principal here. He was kind of the muscle, wasn't he, in Trading Places? But he plays a great role as well because he's trying to play up the fact that, you know, like, I'm doing this good thing because I want you to turn your lives around. So, you know, you need to write this letter saying about who you are. And that's basically my job as a teacher. Then he's fucking off and reading up medical records on the staff and stuff and being an utter prick. But yeah, so anyway, I think it is great, but it is one of those that's just, it's more of an emotional journey and it's definitely a slow burn at the start.
Yeah, it is. But I think there's a payoff to it, Dave. So and you're right. I think, like, even though it's a slow burner, and I honestly was like, oh my God, why is this rated so highly, you know, and all that stuff. I think, like, the end of it, and also you're building stuff, like you say, like, Bender's the character that I really relate to. I know he's probably the most memorable one for a lot of people, but just that whole thing of, like, he is doing things on purpose so he doesn't have to be at home because of his dad and all that. You know, he puts the fire on because he knows going to be detention. See you next week. Doesn't want to be at home because his dad's abusive. It's so relatable. And I think, like, the other characters, even though it's 1985, somehow John Hughes still makes this relevant. Like you said, there's a few things that have aged, fair enough, you know, and I get that. But I think the actual breaking down of different characters and everyone's insecurities as people, because each character reveals a vulnerability, don't they? You know, even Emilio Estevez, it's about, you know, the wrestling team, he's getting his dad's sort of approval, even though being intimidated, right? There's all these things that we as people, I think Alison, you know, she's compulsively dishonest, but it's because of her parents, she's been neglected. It's all these things to gain attention that it doesn't matter how the world moves, even in 40 years' time, you know, and you know, Devil, hopefully we're going to be here. We'll probably be fucking on our last legs sort of thing. But it's sort of like human beings don't change. Technology, world's changing that, but our emotions and what we expect of people do not change. And I think even now, it's such a relatable movie, honestly. Like, it really caught me off guard, I think, towards the end, because I was like, I get it. I get what you're going for. Whereas there's some bits are just bollocks. And like you say, Paul Gleason's great. He's just a bellend teacher, innit? He don't give a fuck. Like now, he'd be sat in the other room on his fucking iPad or something, watching YouTube or, watching fucking Sky Sports or something. But like years ago, like you've been detention and it was so fucking boring. Oh my God.
So let's stick on the teacher for a second. So Paul Gleason, and again, at the start, you could say, well, these kids are in detention for a reason. They must have done something to deserve it to be there. So, he set them an essay. I mean, fucking 8 hours to write an essay. Jesus Christ. It's incredibly boring. But where this is a great time capsule is teachers a lot of the time were fucking horrible people. Right.
Yeah,
I'm sure that there's lots of teachers, I'm sure, that were in it for the right reasons and, did a fantastic job. But Paul Gleason's character, the vice principal, there was a fucking arsehole and an abusive arsehole as well. And there's obviously jumping around quite a lot, but towards the end, when he gets Bender into the room and he's basically saying, look, no one's going to believe you. If there's a physical altercation here, they're going to believe me because I've got the status, I've got the stand-in, and he's wanting to throw hands at that point. And that was a thing that sort of transported me back to that time as well. I remember, it's all kinds of fucking shit, but one thing in particular that reminds me, so I remember there was one of the teachers and he had a really nice car and he proper fucking fancied himself as well. It's one of those where I think back and I'm like, I'm pretty sure you'd be on the list now, but he had a really nice car.
Yeah.
And one of the lads, Stuart, he got too close to the car because they fucking parked in the playground as well. It's just one of those silly things that you wouldn't get now. But like the cars, you got kids all running around fucking playing whatever. And then like you've got cars just driving through and then parking right in the middle of the fucking playground. And so, Stuart obviously got too close to the car, just walks over to him, boots him full on in the stomach.
Okay.
And then he's fucking crumpled down, like crying his eyes out. And then teacher just walks off. Nothing fucking happened to that at all. And that's just one incident that when they were in the, when they were in the room with Bender and whatever, it just popped into my head that. And I was just thinking yeah, there were some real fucking abusive pricks and they got away with a lot of shit. There's no way. I don't think you would get those characters, or maybe you do get those characters as teachers now, but I think they'd be weeded out quite quickly. But yeah, I'm sure if you go back even further, it's probably on a trend, where teachers were absolutely horrible to now they don't have any power. So when they do need to deal with things, they don't have any power to deal with it. But yeah, teachers were see you next Tuesday a lot of the time.
Yeah, they were. And there's all the stories in there of them. They were just horrible. Like my school, St Ambrose, that was in the news. I only went there for a year and a half. I hated it. And then ended up going to BTH in Altrincham. That was a normal mixed grammar school, a mixed secondary school. But I went from a grammar school so I hated the grammar school. But that come out years later. The teachers were really bad, Dave, for being violently abusive, towards people. There was a few, I've told the story, the choir, being someone who sort of could half sing, as you had to see the back of my arse for quite a while, Dave, when we were in the band, good or bad with my voice. But I remember the choir
stage,
thing.
I should
on
clarify.
The stage, yeah. It's not playing things with automobiles again. But there was the teacher who they used to say to us, when you go for, they made everyone do compulsory. I bet they did compulsory choir practice and choir trials. And I sang out a key, Dave, on purpose. And then what happened years later? It came out that I was correct in what I did. That's all I'll say. So some poor guys in my year and other years were abused, which was in the news over the last years. But yeah, teachers were absolute wankers. If they weren't touching you up, they were beating the shit out of you. So it's, it's about abuse of power and stuff. So yeah, it's interesting. Paul Gleason isn't like that as such, but it's that whole thing of a teacher. He plays the teacher to a T. I think that like there's a little bit more leeway. Whereas now, fucking hell, the kids quite rightly probably and wrongly they'd have the phones out or whatever. I mean, I'm sure you're the same. I've seen parents come in and just lever some teachers sometimes. Like fucking hell, I'm sure we all have listening. But anyway, I do think that there is life lessons to this movie that only hit, and I don't know whether I'll watch it again. But what I would say, if it is on and it was on, I'd love to watch the slow bits again, because I feel as if, because I had this like impression of, oh my God, when's it going to get going? There is such a payoff at the end that I was so relatable. I was like, oh, you dick, like you've not understood the assignment. So maybe that context of watching it 41 years later is ruined by my sort of bias of like, oh, go on then, when are we going to get the karate kicks? When we getting the boobs out? When we getting, or whatever, what's going on? It's not like my Malibu Express. What, I need everything in this movie at once. I think that's what I sort of ruined my own experience watching this. But I think like as you were getting towards the end of the movie, when they were telling their personal stories and their journeys, that really hit home. Was like, oh, right, I get it. I get it now. I get like these kids don't want to be at home, or if they do, they're trying to get some form of acceptance. As I said before, we've all been there, done that. And unfortunately, you can go through life trying that. There's a point where you go, I don't give a fuck anymore. I'm not going to get what I want. You've just got to walk away from that situation. And I feel like it was almost like talking to me in so many ways, Dave, trying all these years, trying to get acceptance off one of my parents, never getting it, and then realizing actually it's fucking wrong the way I was brought up, and me and my peers and that. So yeah, it's good. I'm not doing it as like a therapy session or anything like that, or woe is me. But I think as I've got older, you come to accept that people are broken, and if they don't want to give you what you want, you're never going to get it. And I did love that about this movie. I'll be honest with you. I love that end bit. It really like put a lump in my throat, I think, in some things where I can look back and go, fucking hell, yeah. Yeah, that's so relatable. I think there's some really relatable bits to it with each individual character, not just Bender. Each character was like, I can relate to that. Yeah, that's what was me, or that was this. You know what I mean? So yeah, really, really, really good storytelling at the end.
And I think the ending only hits so hard because of all the build-up.
Yes.
I think if you watched it again, you would find deeper layers in it.
Yeah, I agree.
To lead up to that moment, and I think without that, you couldn't fast forward. Although if they did, and hopefully never will do, but if they say made this today, I don't know, they would probably fast forward to get to that emotional impact, in the first act or something, and then make the movie about something else. But I think you need that slower build-up. You need to see that, from the start, the kids don't really want to interact with each other. You've got this arsehole vice president, or vice principal, sorry. Sorry, I was thinking about something else we were referring to.
He's on the brain, Dave, unfortunately.
And I do appreciate now that I've seen it more than the once, that the slower build-up. And, like I say, Bender's kind of the catalyst. I do think he is a bit of a knob, and I'll get on to, what I think is the sexual assault that happens a bit later that's just kind of brushed over. But, he's the one, Gleason wants the door left open, and he's the one who kind of goes and makes sure that the door can't close. He takes the bolt out and stuff. And then, eventually he tries to separate Bender from the group. And one of the unsolved mysteries is, what is the punchline to the joke? Because when you got Judd Nelson, and he escapes. He's locked in this room, but then he escapes through the air vent, and he's going through the roof, through the ceiling, and he says the joke, or he starts to tell the joke, which is, a naked blonde walks into a bar carrying a poodle under one arm and a 6-foot salami under the other. The bartender says, "So I don't suppose you'd be needing a drink." The blonde says, and he falls through the skylight, or not skylight, but falls through the ceiling. And you never get to hear the end of the joke. So there's some online chatter about, what's the fucking end of the joke? I want to know what the end of the joke is. But what I would say is, so he's back then. He's back in the group. Where you have to suspend a bit of disbelief is, even though the door was open and you've got Paul Gleason, he's gone off and, like I say, he's looking through the medical records of the other teachers, and the caretaker's there as well and catches him, and he's wanting to be paid off. The idea that this library is full of fucking smoke and weed and blasting out music, the idea that someone wouldn't hear that or discover that or just come back in and fucking smell it is a little bit silly. But of course it gives us some iconic moments where, I mean, the weed really is, I say, Bender's the catalyst, but really it's Bender plus his weed, which is the catalyst that allows everyone to sort of break down some barriers and then find some common ground.
But you're saying about the, and you're right, by the way, you're right. There's nothing, Dave, there's nothing like a bit of truth if there's a bit of illegal narcotics involved, or alcohol. There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, the sexual assault thing, like, it is, it's of its time, that, isn't it? That is of its time. That is something like you wouldn't have, and it wouldn't just be thinking. But unfortunately, it was in a lot of movies. I don't think it was necessary either, to be honest, because it's sort of, it takes a little bit away from the movie, doesn't it? It's just like, I don't think now, why would you have that in there?
Well, it's this thing again. It's so obvious now when you're sort of a few years down the line. But I do think, like, where were the other adults? Like, the age we are now, we can see it, we can spot it, and it's like, okay, what we're talking about. So you end up with Bender. He's supposed to be in this other room, so he's hiding from Paul Gleason, and so he's under the desk with Molly Ringwald, and he sort of sees a knickers, and then he just decides, he's going to try and dive right in there, and it's like, it's played off like hijinks. And of course, at the end, it's questionable. Did they sleep together? They certainly had a bit of a smooch and whatever. And you're watching it now and you're like, fucking hell, this is wrong. But, like, say, where are the other adults at this point? Who was shouting out, this is fucking wrong? Like, why would you just play that off?
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? But Dave, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the only thing on this movie 40 years later that would go, no, that wouldn't happen now. Certainly wouldn't. He'd be getting fucking carted out. He wouldn't be in detention. He might be young offenders detention if it was a bit awkward. Not awkward, I'm wrong. It was awkward, I'm wrong. But yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I will say, and it's not skating over that, but for the context of the movie, it's supposed to be about what Bender's about as a person, isn't it? Which, again, he's not really likable as such, but he's very relatable. Other than that bit. Let me just clear that up. Me and Dave have never shared a bed together, and also I've never done that with a girl. Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah. But I think he's certainly understandable, isn't he? And when he's doing his one-man monologue, talking about his interactions with his dad, and you're like, is this true, or what he's describing there? And certainly Emilio Estevez, he's saying, it's bullshit, that kind of thing. And then he's showing him, he's got the cigarette or cigar burn or whatever it is on his arm, whereas, it looks like he's been disciplined in a inappropriate way. So you sort of do understand it, and I guess that I just can't fully immerse myself into the idea that Bender's this criminal in waiting, because I think back to my school, and I think some of the fucking characters there, and I think he wouldn't be doing a one-man monologue. He'd be fucking kicking your head in and stealing your lunch. Because there's a bit, isn't there, when they're all eating, and again you can see that he's got nothing. They've all been or most of them have been packed off by their parents and they've been given a packed lunch. This is what to eat. He's got fuck all because he's neglected. And you can see him sort of looking at other people's food and stuff. But yeah, there wouldn't have been that at my school. He was just fucking taking it, beating you up.
Yeah, they would have done it. Yeah, 100%. I think Thingy's character though as well, Anthony Michael Hall Bryan, that bit with the gun. I think that's what hit home a lot.
Yeah.
And then there was a bit of a laugh because it was a fucking flare gun, and Emilio Estevez starts laughing. His character starts laughing. But I think that bit and the dancing you've just had before it, in that, like, they're just letting loose. But it's like, see you next week, everyone. Have a good week. And obviously Bender says, I'll see you to the caretaker. I'll see you next week, because obviously he's there all the time because of his family stuff. So I think there is moments in our life, I don't know about you look back and at the time they're not important, but then you can look back and go that actually that was probably a point where I changed as a person, or I did, like they come out of this and we're watching it. It's supposed to be like these people are set up for life. They know they've expressed the problems. They're going to come and they're going to be a more positive person, or they're going to get away from the situation. They're in an abusive situation, whatever. And it doesn't happen like that in real life. But a film makes you feel good at the end, doesn't it? Because there is a payoff there where they all seem to have been a bit enlightened and everything. But I do feel like I did reflect on it, thinking actually there is times in my life where you don't realize at the time, but that was a turning point inadvertently, or sometimes it's a turning point for yourself just to go, right, I've had enough. I'm doing something else. And we all do that. So I think that's what I'll take away from this a lot. The last 20 minutes, I think, are absolutely perfect. I think they're absolutely brilliant. And I do think you're right. I probably do need to watch it again because I won't be so critical on it. But I think the ending's brilliant and it's so relatable. I think luckily the Greens picked a great movie there. Second movie of the year. I really, really enjoyed it more than I should have done at the end, Dave. And it's had me thinking more about it, which I never usually do, afterwards a lot. Hence why I went on the rabbit hole researching and reading all the trivia and tidbits and stuff.
Yeah. So, I definitely think you'll get more from it. But to just, before we go into our wrap up and stuff, just some of the other things that came out at the end. So obviously Claire, so Molly Ringwald, she's doing up Alison, so Ali Sheedy. And again, I think one of the things that doesn't come across that well, it's almost like the opposite of Grease, where Sandy gets done up a bit more like a bad girl kind of thing, and you get you're the one that I want at the end. And so she does up Alison, whereas I'm like, I don't think she needed it. I don't. And then suddenly, like fucking Emilio Estevez, Andrew there, he's like, ooh, he suddenly takes an interest. Yeah. So I don't think that was necessary as such. So, but yeah, and I said about Bender and Claire, so getting together. And you get that iconic walking away. So Bender's walking across the football field and he just punches in the air. And it's like, and then you get the Simple Minds. We haven't even talked about the music, have we? Don't You Forget About Me. Just so synonymous with this movie and such an iconic track. And I didn't realize, Chris, this isn't even fucking written by Simple Minds.
No, I didn't.
It was written for the movie and they didn't even want to do it. But they kind of, they were obviously in for it, and then, were kind of lukewarm, and were like, no, we kind of want to do our own stuff. And then they couldn't get anyone else to perform it, so like, oh, go on then, we'll do it. And it ends up being probably their biggest hit. So, yeah, I just think I love the song, by the way, but yeah, but watching it this time. And I was thinking, you get that triumphant punch in the air, you get the music kicking in, and you're like, yeah, this day has changed all of their lives for the better. And then I'm thinking, as you were alluding to there, life doesn't happen that way. So they come back in on Monday, and all right, they might give a nod if they're walking through the corridor to see someone else from the Breakfast Club, but they're probably still all in their cliques. Bender's dad is still an abusive arsehole and he's probably still neglected. So I don't know why, just not to bring a downer on it as well, but watching it this time, that came across to me more than anything. That, you know, I loved the movie and everything, but yeah, Monday's still shit.
Right, Dave. You're not going to just come in and every stage. As a movie, I think the message is clear, and I think it does hit towards the end. So, shall we get into our scores, Dave?
Let's go.
So big thank you to Look Movie. Thank you so much for picking out. What a great movie. You know, at the end, like, really does pay off. There's a slow burn to it. The characters are so complex. And as usual, I've gone into it going, this is absolute bobbins, but it wasn't. It's a great movie. And I've been umming and ahhing what to do, David. I've not done this for a while, but I actually think I'm going to put it in Pleasantville. Which I've not done. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I felt at the end, it was almost like a bit of a Usual Suspects type thing where everything just came together. And I was like, you've missed so much, you dick. You know, like, so I'm blaming myself here because I was ready to go all guns blazing. I think it's a great movie. I think, like you say, the thing with Bender and that is not great at all, that sort of thing. But I think everything else about the movie, I was so relatable, not having a great upbringing. We're all the same. I'm not the only one. We all, and looking back and going, well, it makes you the person you are. And these are the sort of things that these kids were going through, the anxieties, no matter what it is, how big, how small, it makes you as a person. And at 47, I can still look back as a kid and go, I wish I'd done this. I wish I'd done that. Or why didn't I stand up for myself? Why didn't I do, you know? And I think that's what this is about. It's just a message for young kids to say, it's all right to be different. It's all right. We all go through things. We all have bellend parents or different things in our life that dictate what's going on. It makes you as a person. So, no, really, really good movie, Dave. And John Hughes delivering again for me. And so I've slept on for far too long. So what about yourself?
Oh, very good. I wasn't expecting that, especially, you know, let's say even first half of the movie, I'm watching it and I'm thinking, oh, Chris might fucking tear this to pieces.
Nearly, yeah.
And I think you were probably on that trajectory, but then you get that, you know, slow but emotional gut punch. So I think for me, like I say, I do love this movie. I don't think it's in the upper echelons. I'm actually going to send it to Pleasantville as well. I think utterly iconic. You've got such a great cast. You've got so many great characters. You've got, you know, fantastic scenes, like memeable scenes. You've got, like say, the Simple Minds track as well. You know, is utterly iconic and synonymous with this movie. I think it is great. Again, I don't know. It's not one I'm necessarily going to watch every year, but I'll certainly watch this many more times again. And I imagine I'll probably, each time I've watched it, I pick up other small little things. Like the one bit I hadn't mentioned, but you know, something I'd never noticed before. But you see, like Alison, she's a bit of a hoarder. You know, that's one of her personality traits. And when Andrew and Bender, they're having a bit of a tussle, a very nice kind of wrestling tussle, but then Bender gets out the knife and he sticks it in the chair and he's still focused on Andrew, on Emilio Estevez, and you see in the background, Alison just nabs it. She just fucking nicks his knife.
Yeah.
I hadn't noticed that before. So yeah, I will watch it again. Did love it, but yeah, not quite in the Cloud City region, but definitely Pleasantville.
No, 100%. And Dave, now for something completely different. So it is a Patreon pick next week. It's our good friend Gareth, and he has picked a movie, Dave, that I have watched a few times. I've watched the first two quite a lot as a kid. This one, Dave, we are going back to 1991. And he's got a great bit of music in this that's very relatable around this time. This one is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secrets of the Ooze. So let's get into the trailer. Oh, Dave. Brings back so many memories.
A city where 8 million can scarf down
I mean,
their
I
slices.
remember the
in
first
safety,
one
knowing
more,
that when pizza is close
but
by,
it was still pretty huge, wasn't it?
is never far away.
Isn't this the one with Vanilla Ice?
Yeah. Go Ninja, go Ninja, go.
Yeah. We really
Any
played
luck
up on
finding a
this.
new place to live yet?
Well, you know, in this market, it's actually very difficult to find good subterranean housing. You'd think even an idiot could find a place down here.
This is going to be horrendous.
I love it. Great pick, Gareth. Great pick.
Wow! And I thought all the really good dungeons were in Europe. The past returns, my son.
Master Splinter.
Hey guys, look! That's the canister that had the ooze. That transformed us all.
Well, you're the last one, aren't you?
Uh-oh!
Look, some animals are knocking down the telephone poles.
Let them get their own cab.
The next fight will be
I think this is on the.
against freak.
Take the
I
ugly
think this
one! You take
might be on the
ugly one.
pain
Which
and
one
pleasure
the ugly
spectrum
one?
as
You know
well.
what? I've got a feeling I'm going to love this, you know. Yeah, there he is. Vanilla Ice.
Oh,
Here we go. There's Rob. Come on. Rob Van Winkle. Go Ninja, go.
remember the dance?
I know it. Yeah, I do. He used to dance like MC Hammer, didn't he?
Turn on the open!
Fucking
Surf's
brilliant.
up, dude!
Yeah. Soup's up, dude. Yeah, I love it. Oh, Dave, this is me. 13 years older when this came out.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
Oh, I am up for
The
this.
Secret of the Ooze.
Don't forget, we're turtles!
Oh, I can't wait. I fucking cannot wait. This has definitely got to be on YouTube, hasn't it? There's no way.
It's
this
got to
is
be,
fucking-
yeah.
Yeah, this is not on any streaming service. Oh, I can't wait for that. Honestly, I fucking love these movies. They were so shit. I love the cartoon and everything. I was a massive fan of the Turtles. When we did the first one, oh, I can't wait. I think I picked the first one, didn't I can't wait. Oh, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
It's going to be
Oh,
terrible.
brilliant.
I don't see it right now on YouTube, but you're normally
I have the
better
ways,
than I
Dave,
am.
to find it on YouTube. Don't
yeah.
worry about that. And anyway, Dave, don't say this is going to be terrible. I won't have the Turtles name disparaged on this podcast. Don't be
I mean,
abandoning it
let's
around
face it,
willy-nilly,
it
mate.
is going to, I mean, just from that trailer, it's obviously terrible, but is it so bad it's good? That's what I'm
I know.
wondering. And I'm just trying I don't think I'd be able to do the Vanilla Ice, dance where it's sort of hopping from one leg to the other. I think I'd put my back
Well,
out these
Dave,
days.
You say that, but I might have to do a bit of a Discord fucking. I used to be able to do that dance. I'm going to have to watch it. I'm not a
Yeah.
great dancer, but I can do that.
Were you fucking middle-aged the last time you tried it?
Excuse me, I'm fitter now than I ever was. My hair's long enough to spike it up. It's a bit grey. I think I'm gonna have to pull it out of the bag, Dave. I'm gonna have to. Have
I
a go
think
at
you
this.
are. I think
Yeah.
that would be much
Sam,
appreciated.
you're gonna film this and be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And then I'll be like, "Dave, I ended up in A&E later on."
Yeah.
Fucking.
I've seen a few different like memes and TikToks and stuff. So stuff like middle age, where someone jumps off the second step or something, and then it cuts
Yeah.
away to an ambulance driving off.
Oh, there's that. You know what? There's that thing in there. Say middle aged. There's that thing about. You say, I'm gonna say it wrong, but there's that thing about being middle aged is you're only a fart away from slipping a disc or something. You know what I mean?
I remember on I think it was Scott from 20th Century Geek saying, "Oh, I sneezed and I've like pulled a muscle, in between my
Yeah.
ribs or something." And so, yeah, it's rubbish, isn't it?
It is rubbish, Dave. It is rubbish getting old. But anyway, thank you so much, Gareth. Thank you so much, Lucky Rudy Green, for today's pick. I can't wait for next week. If you do want to follow us and email us, the VHS Strikes Back at gmail.com. If you want to follow us on social media at VHS Strikes Back. If you do want to support us, please get over to patreon.com/the VHS Strikes Back. So the roll call of honor, a big thank you to Reese, Nick, Greg, Gareth, Mike, Lee, Helen, Dylan, Dan, Justin, Susan, Tim, Matt, Hales, Kent, Looking at the Green, Herbs, Jack, Math, Blake, John Hammond, and Mr. Tony Farina. So thank you so much for your support. Oh, Dave, this is going to be a classic next week.
Yeah.
So before we go, what have you got for us musically, mate?
So for this one, and we seem to have done a few movies from right in the middle of the 80s, so 1985. And I was thinking, right, in 1985, we talked at the top of the show about we kind of missed out. But at that time, we've talked before about our kind of summer trips to Benidorm. And again, there is another thing we won't talk about today, but maybe another time. And I do look back at things like that and think, even though we were poor as fuck, or it felt like we were poor as fuck, being able to go across to Spain for a summer holiday was something like quite a lot of Brits were privileged to have. And anyway, I was thinking, if it was around about this time in the mid 80s, what would I have been doing on the, in Benidorm? Well, you'd have had a disco there, and you'd have been hearing what is the latest summer anthems. I don't know if you were the same. I'd always, it's when you go on holiday, you'd hear these new songs that you hadn't heard before. And so, it's like, ooh, what is that? And then I was thinking, well, a lot of these songs, the verses come along and you're like, some verses. And then the chorus comes along and then everyone sings it, but no one knows what the verses are. So that was my headspace on the disco in Benidorm, not knowing what the verses are or having lyrics in a verse, but having a really sing-along chorus to go with. And what I suspect your journey in listening to this will be, you're listening to it and you'll first go, yeah, this sounds really 80s. Yeah, it's all right. It's not your best work, Dave. The chorus will kick in and you'll be like, oh, this is an earworm. So here we go. This one is simply called Breakfast Club.
Saturday again, 7 kids in detention with a man who hates them. Lock the doors tight, lecture them slow. You're all disappointments, but it's framed like growth, so it's fine though. We've got stereotypes lined up in rows like a BuzzFeed quiz from the 80s we chose. Jock, brain freak, princess rebel with pain. Say it loud enough and it counts as separately. Breakfast Club. Breakfast Club. Breakfast Club. Breakfast Club. Pull her pants down, call it a laugh. Sneak through the vents, have a stare, have a grab. But don't worry folks, he's got issues at home. Say my dad's a monster and the script says we're absolved. Bad behavior gets a montage. Soft lighting does a moral job. Say you're damn and say you feel unseen. Cue a kiss, roll credits clean. Breakfast Club. Breakfast Club. Breakfast Club.
Moving away a day.
Breakfast Club. Dear audience, we know what you'll say. It was different time. It was meant that way. But if vibes could erase every awful thing done, we'd solve all of history with a Casio and drums. He learns he's sensitive. She learns to forgive. Guess who does most of the emotional live? He gets closure. She gets a note written by the boy who treated her worse. Breakfast Club. Na 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 na. Breakfast Club. Na 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 na. Breakfast Club. Na 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 na. Breakfast Club. Na 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 na. Breakfast Club. Breakfast Club. Breakfast Club. Breakfast Monday comes back and it's all still shit.
Had to get that bit in at the end.
I like it. I like it. Good, that. Very catchy. I'm booting away here, Dave.
Like I say, just did I set the scene appropriately? You know,
Yes.
on the dance floor at the disco in the mid '80s, not really knowing what this song is, and not really caring about all these fucking overly melodramatic, serious lyrics in the verse, but you're like, then the chorus comes along, and then everyone's jumping up and dancing. So there we go. And I thought, you know, if this was on top of the pops, you'd have a duo. So you'd have one guy with a multi-layered keyboard, you know, so a couple of keyboards on top of each other, wearing sunglasses, even though you're in the middle of a fucking studio. So that really went off down a rabbit hole here. But thank you very much, sir. I appreciate the chat, but I enjoyed the fact that you liked it. I wasn't sure that you would. But thanks very much, Lucky Lulu Green, as well, for picking this. Thanks to all our listeners out there. Thanks to all our supporters. And we'll speak to you next time.
Bye.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Maybe we could build a fire, sing a couple of songs, huh? Why don't we try that?
We better get back, because it'll be dark soon, and they mostly come at night. Mostly.
I'll be back. That's not.
We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
Wax on, wax off. Get to the chopper! One ring to go. All right. Ding, ding. Bust you up. Go for it.
Well, here we go.
Ain't so bad. Ain't so bad. Ain't so bad. Come on. Ain't so bad. Ain't nothing. Come on. You must be crazy or something. I'm crazy. You just a stupid fool. Maybe you crazy. I ain't breathing heavy. He's a fool. He's stupid. I'll see you in 6 months.